My name is Mina. I love how every season is perfect for enjoying food. I'd say as I ate season after season, now at 36, I've grown quite a bit. Aiming for a model's figure? Well, not exactly, but I do wish to get back to the slim shape I had in my 20s. Today, I want to share a dramatic experience from my 20s. Please listen to my story. It happened a decade ago. Back then, I was a brand new wife, married to Ern, who was 2 years my senior. Being older, he often took the role of teaching me things. And why was that? Well, I had only part-time job experience, no experience living alone, and was quite naive about the world. I was working part-time when I started dating my boss, Ern, and we soon married, making me a clueless homemaker. My parents both worked, so I could handle household chores, but I was clueless about things like activating gas services after moving or understanding security deposit and key money systems. I relied heavily on my husband for these. At work, I was learning from my husband, and at home, he was teaching me things too. This, I believe, was our downfall. He began to comment on every little thing. For instance, if I finished chores and watched TV, he'd say, "Didn't you stretch out the laundry properly? It looks wrinkled." If I cooked, he'd complain, "Carrots again? Using the same ingredient 2 days in a row isn't good." And while vacuuming, he'd critique, "You shouldn't stretch the cord so much." His remarks started to feel like he had too many personal rules. At first, I thought maybe he was right about the laundry or getting tired of the same ingredients. I listened to him. But then he'd find something new to criticize. When I bought new clothes with my savings, he scolded, "Why do you need new clothes when you're just at home? Don't be extravagant." Though I bought it with my own savings. If I went shopping in shabby clothes, he'd surely say, "That's embarrassing." I couldn't win. What did he expect me to do? To him, it might have felt like he was just teaching me, but he had turned into a constant nag. Yet he did nothing himself. He would just tell me what to do without lifting a finger. Naturally, he never did any housework. He had lived alone and could obviously handle chores, given his complaints about mine. But he would insist, "I'm tired from working all day. I don't want to work at home too. You're the homemaker, so let's divide the roles." And he never helped. Initially, I thought there was some reason in my husband's words. I take care of the house. In exchange, he earns the living expenses. It seemed like a fair division of labor. Little did I know just how much he would nag. Gradually, I couldn't help but think, if you have so many complaints, why don't you do it yourself? I thought about working part-time to be on equal footing and discussed it with him, but he immediately dismissed the idea. When I asked why, his answer was shocking. "What's gotten into you, wanting to work so much? You're not planning to cheat, are you?" he said. What kind of reasoning is that? If he's that worried about someone else taking me away, I'd wish he'd cherish me more daily. But to him, all this was supposedly for my sake. And he felt he was protecting me, keeping me safe from the dangers of the outside world by not letting me work part-time. But honestly, such a roundabout protection is hardly appreciated. I'd rather have a token of appreciation like some fancy rusts sent my way. I know I'm not unloved, but there's a lack of kindness, a lack of consideration. Gradually, I started feeling resentful towards my husband. Then one day, "Mina, why didn't you wake me up?" he erupted, in his pajamas and bed hair, completely losing his dignity. "Huh? You never asked me to wake you up, and you always set an alarm because the time you need to get up varies depending on your work schedule. You can wake up on your own." "I forgot to set the alarm? It's your fault I overslept." "Huh?" I couldn't help but respond in disbelief. It's absurd to blame me for his oversleeping because he forgot to set his daily alarm. Especially since I wasn't even informed about what time he needed to wake up today. "Seriously, you're so inconsiderate. I wanted a leisurely morning, and now I have to rush to work. Be more careful from now on." I wish he'd just sleep forever. Oblivious to my growing irritation, he moved around noisily, constantly complaining, hastily washed his face, and left for work, nearly still in bed hair. It's so infuriating. Maybe for dinner tonight, I'll make everything he dislikes. Even as I harbored such ill thoughts, I diligently prepared dinner and waited for my husband that night. When he returned, I greeted him with the usual, "Welcome back," only to be angrily rebuked.
Enough is enough.
Confused, I asked what happened, and it turned out he forgot something important due to his oversleeping in the morning.
I needed those documents for a meeting, and I forgot them because I overslept. It's your fault for not waking me up. One disaster after another.
But aren't I the one experiencing the real disaster here? I'm being scolded for something I didn't do. However, I know from experience that arguing back only leads to more anger. I know it well from past experience. Recently, I bought a bunch of new sponges for the bathtub because the old ones were worn out, and he scolded me for unnecessary spending. When I explained, I bought them in bulk because they were on sale and will need them eventually, he lectured me even louder.
Don't make excuses. Only buy what's necessary in the necessary amount.
Arguing back is like pouring oil on fire, only increasing the discomfort. So for my own peace of mind, I stayed silent. After all, next week, we're visiting the in-laws' house for the first time since our marriage. It's for a Thanksgiving greeting. Just the thought of going to the unfamiliar in-laws' house is depressing. I want to lighten my mood as much as possible before that. I kept telling myself, endure it, Mina, just endure. And finally, the day of visiting the in-laws' house arrived. My husband was in a good mood that day, and while there were the usual naggings, it didn't escalate into anything serious. He was smiling so much, I found it somewhat eerie. Is he that happy to visit the in-laws' house? But maybe I should have sensed danger in my husband's behavior. When relatives gathered in the living room, the incident happened.
Ern, how's married life? Must be the happiest time, right?
A tipsy relative asked him.
Well, it's quite challenging, my husband replied. Can't understand your wife's feelings, huh? To be young. No, it's different. She's really naive, always wasting money and causing me trouble. What?
I was shocked to hear this exchange from a distance, and my husband, noticing me, looked over with a mocking smile.
While we're at it, she just recently bought a ridiculous amount of cleaning supplies for no reason. She makes excuses, saying they're consumables, and it's better to buy in bulk. Well, isn't that okay? She's going to use them, right? No, it's not just that. Even her cooking has issues, like using the same vegetables 2 days in a row. She probably buys groceries in bulk, without considering expiration dates. And she buys clothes unnecessarily, even though she doesn't work. Vegetables are often sold in bags, and, every couple has their issues.
I almost laughed at how the relative was trying to wrap up the conversation safely, realizing that my husband was being a bit unreasonable.
No, you don't get it, Uncle. It's not just that. She's causing me trouble with her wasteful spending and naivety. Right, Mina? You can't do anything. You're inconsiderate, sloppy with chores, and have no sense of money.
I was startled when he suddenly turned the conversation to me. I was irritated by his smug face. I admit I'm naive, but I don't recall being wasteful. I bought the clothes with my own savings, and the cleaning supplies were necessary. It seemed the relatives understood this too. I wasn't the strange one here. My husband, who still blames me for oversleeping, seemed to want to embarrass me in front of everyone as revenge. He wanted to show off.
Look how I am taking care of my incapable wife. What a great husband I am.
Maintaining his false dignity at home and now trying to display it outside. How infuriating.
That's right, everyone. Please help educate my wife. Listen, Mina, if you can't keep the food budget under $50 a month, we'll divorce. How about that? Try it starting this month.
Huh? Everyone, including me, looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. Living alone, maybe you could manage a $50 monthly food budget? Barely. I'm good at household management, and I've already been saving a lot on food expenses. My husband just doesn't notice. But to live on $50 for 2 people a month, and to use divorce as a condition? He must think I dread divorce and desperately try to make $50 dinners. He He looked at me with a smug, victorious smile. Maybe he thinks I'll come begging to him. Well, he's got nerve. I don't particularly care about divorce, but I'm not one to back down from a challenge. Got it. Be ready when we get home, I said with a smile. 2 days later, back from the in-laws' house, our usual life resumed. My husband sneered.
Now, let's see if you can manage with a $50 food budget starting today. If you want to apologize, now's the time.
I can do this. That day, I made curry. It was the usual richly filled curry, so my husband somewhat triumphantly said,
Hey, starting with this on our first day, $50 will be tough. You really don't think things through.
The next day, I served curry again. He remarked,
The same menu 2 days in a row? Isn't that a bit sneaky? Well, fine. If I don't let this slide, you'll end up divorced. I won't make a rule against repeated menus.
The following day, again, it was curry. Eating the menu served despite complaining, he now had to accept the repeated meals because of the rule he made. But today, after taking a bite, he asked,
Hey, isn't this diluted?
Diluted? Of course.
Huh?
Every day, I add a little water and keep simmering it. I call it infinite curry. It's gradually becoming curry-flavored water, a special saving dish.
What? You're kidding. I thought something was off. Yesterday it was still good, but today it's way too watery.
No one said curry with added water is off limits. If you don't like it, don't eat it. But then make your own meals. Remember, it's your rule. The food budget stays under $50 a month or else divorce, right? Seemingly not wanting to divorce, my husband silently continued eating the infinite curry. A week or so of infinite curry later, when the pot was finally empty, he was visibly relieved. The next morning he smirked.
What will you feed me today? Apologize now if you want.
I smiled back. Look forward to it. I'll put extra effort into it. That night, what awaited my husband was a mountain of lettuce on a plate and a bottle of salt.
Huh?
After a small exclamation, he alternated between staring at the lettuce and me in silence. Here's your dinner. I revived it with water. There's plenty more, so feel free to eat as much lettuce as you like.
You're joking, right?
If you don't like it, feel free to serve an expensive dinner and go for that divorce.
No.
Around this time, I began to use the word divorce to intimidate my husband. It was a reversal of our roles. Although he was domineering, I knew well that my husband loved me. He just wanted to be the one in charge. Even the incident at the in-laws' house was likely just his way of trying to embarrass me a little. His repeated offers for me to apologize suggested he wasn't serious about divorcing. That's why I went along with his unreasonable demands, confident that I could turn the tables. But seeing such a bossy person silently eating lettuce, almost in tears, was amusing. Looks like lettuce again tomorrow. With that thought, I continued serving lettuce for about 4 days. However, realizing that the daily fiber overload was upsetting his stomach, I decided not to keep it up for a week. I'm not a monster, after all. Since he had a troubled stomach, why not make something gentle for it? That evening, dinner became soup and rice, mostly liquid. I wondered if he would complain, but this time he gratefully ate the rice, saying,
Ah, rice.
It seems the modest lettuce lifestyle had humbled him, almost like a monk. Excellent. Notably, my husband, who had gained some weight after marriage, seemed to be slimming down. Taking care of my husband's health, what a good wife I am, or so I joked to myself. After nearly a week of soup life,
Please, just a bit more nutrition in the meals, he pleaded.
I didn't remember using mind control just by cooking, but it seems food is indeed important to humans. Gradually, my husband had started speaking politely to me. Perhaps because every time he argued, I'd retort with, Then it's divorce. Really, he flaunted the threat of divorce, but when faced with the possibility, he became fearful. How pitiful. Something with more nutrients. Okay, we've been at this for a while now, so fine. I'll indulge your whim. Still within the $50 budget, though.
Thank you.
That night, I served him salt, water, and beef fat. The beef fat was free from the supermarket's meat section. The water was fresh from our tap, directly from the waterworks, and since everything else was virtually free, I chose rock salt for its quality. It's rich in magnesium, calcium, and potassium. Nutritionally wonderful. Here you go, the nutrients you asked for, I said with a smile.
What? This isn't even cooking anymore.
You said to limit the food budget to $50, but you never specified it had to be cooking. Lettuce isn't really cooking either, right? It's no different.
But this is quite a stretch.
So let's divorce then. Most of the budget was spent on that first curry, so keeping it under $50 is impossible now.
What?
He went pale at my lie. He really didn't want to divorce. Thank you for everything. Let's get divorced.
Wait!
What's the matter? You wanted to educate me in front of the relatives. Weren't you dissatisfied with everything I do and thinking of divorce? As I asked with a sly smile, he had tears brimming in his eyes.
It's not that. I just wanted to be a strong husband in front of you. To be seen as great and capable.
I always thought you were constantly annoying and troublesome. You negated everything I did. It's natural to feel that way.
You should have told me.
I did argue back, didn't I? But you never listened, always calling it excuses. I didn't want to talk about it anymore. He fell silent, looking down, and finally, tears fell. If you continue to behave selfishly like that, I will really divorce you. You may not have been serious about it, but flaunting divorce means you're okay with the other person drifting away.
I'm really sorry. I think I created this image of a husband in my mind. Being older, I thought I had to be relied upon. But I also took advantage of you, thinking you'd do everything. I can't be that imposing outside, but I assumed you'd accept it. And I took you for granted.
After confessing his true feelings while crying, he prostrated himself on the floor.
I mean it. I'll change my ways. I'll prioritize you, Mina, above everything. I won't threaten you with divorce or do anything despicable. I'll listen to your words and feelings. I want to be with you.
What should I do? Upon hearing my words, he trembled momentarily. I won't forgive everything that's happened, but I have conditions for you. If you agree to them, I won't divorce you.
Are you saying you'll forgive me?
I said I won't forgive. Any little problem, and it's instant divorce. You won't have a say in it.
I'm sorry.
My husband apologized again, completely subdued. I'm going to get a part-time job. This way we'll be equals. So you'll do housework too. Understanding my burden. We're a couple after all. We should share both the good and the bad.
Understood.
But just so you know, housework doesn't mean cooking with ingredients I bought or taking out trash I gathered, okay?
What?
You'll go shopping and plan meals? Taking out the trash includes sorting it first. Be mindful of saving on groceries and managing savings. Think you can do it? He swallowed hard, likely thinking it impossible. But soon he said,
I'll do it. I'll do as you say. But please, teach me what I don't know.
That's an easy request. I always wanted a mutually supportive relationship. Okay, deal. Oh, and one more thing. Show me your sincerity in whatever way you can. This is your final condition. Your husband training, I suppose. He looked more troubled at the request to show sincerity than doing housework. Understandably. He had never even thanked me for housework before. Just show sincerity in any form. Must be baffling for him. Being told what to do is easier, he might think. But him figuring it out will surely lead to actions that show he cares. After a silence, he said, I'll try. 10 years have passed since then. In hindsight, those initial conditions might have been too lenient. I later made them stricter. For a year and a half, the same duration I did after marriage, you will do all the housework every day, take care of yourself, and if I express any dissatisfaction, correct it immediately. Never make me uncomfortable. Instant divorce if you fail or complain. Also, wake me up on time every morning, set the alarm yourself. It's the same as what I had been doing, but more demanding because of the threat of divorce. It was almost slave-like in its lack of tolerance for failure. Yet he managed to pull through and met the conditions after a year and a half. After that, I acknowledged his change of heart. I planned to split the household chores with him, but somehow he naturally ended up doing most of the housework except for cooking dinner. During the period when he was conditioned to do housework, he took care of dinner using pre-made meals, but afterwards, since I got home earlier from my part-time job, I started handling it. Or rather, there's not much left for me to do if I don't. However, it seems my husband finds even that regrettable. He now wakes up earlier than me to prepare breakfast with dessert, handles the trash, and even wakes me up if I oversleep. Apparently, he's become skilled in cooking and cleaning, and seeing me genuinely happy about it seems to bring him joy. The show of sincerity I asked of my husband has become indistinguishable from his everyday actions towards me, doing things that he thinks will please me. On ordinary days, he brings home my favorite foods, and if I casually mention a dish looks tasty on TV, he learns the recipe and tries hard to make it. He reflects on the past, saying, "Instead of showing off and being bossy, I should have done things that make you smile." Now, he's so good at Italian and Chinese cuisine, I wonder if he's a professional. He even attended cooking classes secretly. It's amazing how people can change. His kindness and transformation are delightful. But I need to be careful not to become a spoiled wife who is pampered too much. Divorce was an option back then, but he hadn't cheated or lacked love for me. It was just that his way of expressing it was wrong or misguided. It was a mistake due to his clumsiness. If he ever reverted to being domineering, I wouldn't hesitate to choose divorce, but that worry seems unnecessary now. He's become a doting father to our now 5-year-old daughter, making whole cakes with pâtissier-level skills for snacks. If I let go of the past, he's a husband who doesn't stray, earns a decent income, and actively participates in housework and parenting. A prime catch indeed. My mom friends and colleagues at my part-time job always envy me when I talk about him. Everyone has failures and flaws. I'm sure I caused trouble for him too, being naive. We're both at fault. The important thing is how we face and control our own mistakes and flaws. We want to show our child that as a couple, we can speak openly about our shortcomings and work on them together. But there's a lingering effect on my husband. "Sorry, did I do something wrong?" He gets scared whenever I make curry for dinner. "Does Daddy not like curry?" Our daughter tilts her head. "Yeah, weird Daddy. It's yummy though. Our home is peaceful today."
Those bags are for you and Dad to take. Get out of here, will you? I couldn't hide my shock at the sight of the bags piled up at the front door. Everything in them belonged to me and my husband, from clothes to daily necessities. What's going on? Why are you kicking us out of our own home? My hands trembled with anger at the sheer injustice. Seeing my reaction, my son and daughter-in-law smirked. We're taking over this house before Dad gets back from his business trip. Consider it our wedding gift. That's absurd. You can't do that. Well, you didn't give us any wedding money, so it's only fair. You're old anyway. Why don't you just go to a nursing home or something? Mia said, and Alex burst into laughter. Great idea. Off to the nursing home with you. They both jeered at the idea of sending us to a nursing home. I found the situation so ridiculous that I burst into laughter. They looked at me suspiciously, but I didn't care. Are you sure you won't regret this? Regret? We'll feel relieved. All right then, suit yourselves. I smiled at the bluffing Alex and Mia, grabbed my bags, and left the house. It feels so good without the nuisances. We got the house too. This is awesome. I heard their jubilant voices from the other side of the front door. They have no idea what's coming for them. I dragged my carry-on bag away from the scene. My name is Laura. I've worked in caregiving for many years and retired at 70. I enjoy interacting with people, so even after retirement, I volunteer locally. My husband is also in his 70s and runs a small to medium-sized business. He's quite active for his age, often accompanying his employees on business trips. It seems that the company will be handed over when the successor grows up, so I would like to support my husband's work until then. We have a son named Alex. He was a miracle baby for us, as we struggled with infertility for years. We raised him with love and care, and he used to be a well-behaved child. Alex had always been a good kid, the kind of son that made parents proud and neighbors talk. It's not like we spoiled him. We taught him the basics. What's wrong is wrong, and don't do things that annoy others. But when Alex hit high school, we realized there's only so much parents can do. He started hanging out with a local group of troubled teens, and his life began to spiral. The influence of friends can be greater than that of parents. Our once honest and straightforward son became rebellious, selfish, and self-centered. He barely graduated high school and went on to a local college, where he started demanding to live alone. We rented an apartment for him and supported his tuition and living expenses. We hoped college would give him a sense of urgency and a stepping stone to independence. But Alex barely attended classes and remained aimless even after barely graduating. Now, Alex is in his mid-40s. No job, no significant other. Is he going to be all right? These were my worries when I called him about coming home for the holidays. That's when everything started to unravel. Hello, who is this? The voice I heard after 6 months was clearly not Alex's. A woman's voice, cute but somewhat languid. Is this Alex's phone? Who are you? Who are you? I heard Alex's voice faintly in the background.
Mia, who are you talking to?
Alex, some unknown lady is calling.
I don't know any older women. Who is it?
Alex, now laughing, took the phone and his voice turned noticeably annoyed when he realized it was his mom.
What do you want, Mom?
Why? You haven't shown your face in years. How about coming home for the holidays? Your dad misses you. In fact, my husband was really missing him. Probably more than me. He's always concerned about Alex's future and well-being. Maybe it's because they used to fight a lot during his teenage years. But Alex's response was cold.
Nah, coming home is a hassle. I'm staying here with Mia.
At least call your dad.
Yeah, I get it.
So the girl earlier, Mia, are you dating her? Living together? I couldn't help but ask about the woman I had just spoken to. Would a girlfriend really answer her boyfriend's phone without permission? Would she rudely address a stranger as you and speak without any courtesy? Honestly, it was pretty outrageous. But instead of answering, Alex just clicked his tongue in annoyance.
Ugh, so annoying.
What did you say?
You guys are always so annoying. Always meddling in my business.
Without a shout, he hung up the phone. I had been yelled at during Alex's rebellious years, but I never thought he'd speak to me like that as an adult. I stood there, phone in hand, stunned.
I'm home. Did you talk to Alex?
That night, I told my husband about the rude woman who answered the phone and the harsh words from Alex. My husband looked serious, but eventually said,
Well, he is working, even if it's temporary employment. Let's give him some space.
Maybe my husband was right. I was shocked when Alex changed in high school, influenced by his surroundings. I've been anxious that he might be hanging out with the wrong crowd or dating someone questionable. Maybe my over-involvement was getting to him. I decided to consciously hold back on reaching out. A few months later, Alex contacted us. He said he had found a decent job back home and would be returning soon. Despite everything, my husband and I were relieved. It's unsettling when your child is far away, and comforting when they return. But when Alex came home, he brought an unfamiliar woman with him.
This is Mia. We're getting married.
My husband and I couldn't hide our surprise at the sudden marriage announcement, especially since Alex was still a temporary worker. And Mia apparently wasn't working steadily either. Could they really get by without stable income? Welcome, Mia. Wow, Alex's family home is so old-fashioned. Is the floor going to collapse?
How long have you two been dating?
I don't remember. Are you the type to worry about the details, old man? Mia's answers to our questions were dismissive. Alex didn't correct her. He just laughed along. My husband and I exchanged a glance and shrugged in disappointment.
This is bad.
My husband's words sounded like he was pitying them. Despite our objections, Alex and Mia went ahead and registered their marriage. When we said we wanted to meet Mia's parents, she told us it wasn't necessary, denying us even a meeting of both families. Moreover, upon moving back to their hometown, Alex and Mia started living in a brand new apartment.
It's so different from the rundown place we were living in before,
Alex said, clearly pleased. But with their unstable income, there's no way they could afford the rent for such a nice new place. Sure enough, they started relying on our money. We decided to help with the rent, thinking they'd have expenses as newlyweds. But they also started coming over more often to eat, perhaps to save on groceries. Yet, Mia's attitude remained the same.
What's with this side dish? It looks disgusting.
It's always been like this. Lacks color or something. Alex chimed in. I was getting irritated. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. You're the ones who keep showing up. I'm just cooking extra for you. Mia seemed unfazed and didn't take my words to heart. Influenced by her, Alex became increasingly rude to me and my husband, making us dread interacting with them. Then suddenly, my husband had to go on a business trip. He had to spend several weeks in another region with a potential successor for the company.
During that time, I'd have to deal with Alex and Mia alone.
I'm really sorry to leave you alone at a time like this.
It's fine. You're about to retire from being the boss anyway. And look, we have something to look forward to.
True. It's just a matter of enduring until that's completed.
Don't let those two get to you too much. We encouraged each other, and a few days later, I saw my husband off. After that, for some reason, Alex and Mia stopped coming over, and a brief period of peace was ensued. I was busy with my re-entry volunteer activities, so it was good not to have to deal with them. But one day, I came home to find Alex rummaging through my dresser, where I keep my banking cards. "What are you doing?" I turned on the lights and shouted. Alex tossed the banking card he was holding.
Bad timing. You shouldn't have come back.
"Do you even realize what you're doing?"
We're family, so give me some money. We didn't even get a wedding gift from you.
Alex lamented not receiving a wedding gift, but that's to be expected. After all, my husband and I still haven't accepted his marriage to Mia. We're already helping with their rent and providing meals. And now he's trying to steal his own parents' banking card. Unbelievable. I immediately kicked Alex out.
I don't remember raising a child who would steal money from his parents. If you ever do this again, we're done.
I hurled these strong words at him, and he left, clicking his tongue. I immediately called my husband to tell him what had happened. Even though we're family, the fact that Alex was trying to forcibly take money alarmed my husband.
That Alex would do something like this.
I warned him we'd cut ties if he does it again, but there's no guarantee he won't.
Let's move the banking cards to a different location for now. I'll be back in a few days and we can have a proper discussion then.
All right, I'll be waiting. Only a few more days until my husband returns. I hid our valuables and braced myself for any surprise visits from Alex and Mia. But I never expected them to resort to such drastic measures. One day, when I returned from my re-entry volunteer activities, I found a truck parked in front of our house. Boxes and furniture were being carried in by movers. I rushed inside and found Alex and Mia. "What are you doing?"
"Oh, Mom. Sorry, but we have decided to take this house."
Owning a home is an asset, right? So it's better if we live here instead of you old folks, Mia said, laughing. I was too confused to comprehend what they were saying.
Besides, Dad's still working at 70, right? Even now, he's on a business trip. I don't want to end up like that. Working hard is for suckers. While you guys are still healthy, we're taking what we can.
Remarks that make a fool of her husband. Alex's words were a mockery of my husband, who has worked hard as a small and medium-sized business owner. I understand that it's been tough getting the business off the ground, but to me, this felt like an unbearable insult.
Those are your belongings. Get out!
Alex pointed to several bags packed at the entrance. I couldn't hide my shock. Everything from our clothes to daily necessities had been shoved into bags. Why should we have to leave the house we live in for you two? Faced with such unjust treatment, my hands trembled with anger. Seeing my reaction, the couple grinned.
We're gonna make this house ours before Dad gets back from his trip. Consider it a wedding gift.
That's impossible. You didn't give us a wedding gift, so this is only fair. You're old. Why don't you go to a facility or something? When Mia said that, Alex joined in with a big laugh.
That's a great idea. Old folks should go to a facility. A facility!
As they chanted, urging me to go to a facility, something in me snapped, and I burst into laughter. The two of them looked at me suspiciously, but I didn't care. Are you sure about this? You won't regret kicking me out.
Huh? We'll feel refreshed.
All right then, suit yourselves. I smiled at the defiant Alex and Mia, grabbed my bags, and left the house.
It feels so good without the nuisance.
We got the house too! This is awesome! I could hear their jubilant voices from the other side of the front door. They have no idea what's coming their way. Dragging my carry-on bag, I left the scene. A month later, I received a call from Alex, who knew I was now living with my husband, who had returned from his business trip. Hello? Alex, what's going on?
Mom, it's terrible. The house.
What happened to the house? Alex's voice was clearly panicked. Even without asking, I could tell something urgent was happening. Actually, I already knew why Alex was in trouble.
Did you know this house is going to be demolished?
Oh, did I forget to mention that? My feigned ignorance was met with Mia's voice. What the hell, mother-in-law? Did you set us up? You moved in without knowing anything. Besides, how could a house that you didn't inherit become your asset? Mia was still ranting, but I didn't care. The house they took from us was scheduled for demolition. Once my husband returned from his trip, we planned to tell Alex and move into our newly built one-story home. We had moved our banking cards to the new house the day Alex went snooping, so they were safe. I was planning to explain everything step by step, but Alex and Mia took that opportunity away from us.
Listen, the contractors are already here, telling us to vacate. Where are you guys? Can you take us in for a bit?
Well, you have that rental apartment, don't you? You were living there originally, so you can just go back.
We thought we'd get the family home, so we already terminated the lease.
I was utterly amazed at my own son's lack of crisis management skills. It seems Alex and Mia had prematurely terminated their apartment lease, thinking they could live in the family home and use the money I was paying for rent however they wanted. Only then did they find out the house was going to be demolished. But that's not our problem anymore. You guys better leave soon. If anyone other than the owner, my husband, is found living in a house scheduled for demolition, you could be charged with trespassing.
Come on, we're family. Help us out.
You're the ones who told your parents to go to a facility, right? I did as you wished, so figure out the rest yourselves. With that, I hung up the phone without waiting for a reply. After that, the demolition began, and the house my husband and I had lived in for years disappeared without a trace. I thought the situation might turn into a police matter if Alex and Mia didn't leave by the deadline, but it seems my worries were unfounded. Life was peaceful for a while, but the calls from Alex and Mia didn't stop. We even changed our phone numbers, but they managed to track us down through local volunteer connections. Their demands were, as always, about money. Alex and Mia, without stable jobs and now without a home, were living in company housing while working at a factory. Despite having a roof over their heads, they still wanted to live luxuriously on someone else's dime.
If you don't give us money, we'll show up at your house.
My husband and I became a bit concerned upon hearing this desperate threat. Only a handful of people know the location of our new home. My husband had just retired as the CEO and passed the reins to his successor. But he had told some people at the company about our new residence.
I don't think our employees would leak information to someone like him.
Maybe we should talk to them, just in case. While we were discussing this, Alex and Mia showed up at my husband's company. The current CEO informed us about their visit. Did they cause any trouble at the workplace? We were quite concerned, but the current CEO assured us that that wasn't the case. The employees had heard my husband complain about Alex and Mia before, and they were appalled by their actions towards us. So when Alex and Mia showed up at the company, they were firmly turned away. They persistently demanded to know our whereabouts, but the CEO assured us he didn't reveal anything. He even told them off, asking how much more unfilial they could be, and chuckled as he told us. Alex and Mia left the company in frustration and haven't returned. The CEO promised to inform us and take legal action if they try any harassment, which we gratefully accepted. He assured us that the entire company intends to protect my husband and me. It's probably the result of goodwill my husband built up while running the company. And we made a decision.
We're cutting ties with Alex and Mia, wanting money so badly that they'd inconvenience not just their parents but also those around them.
Exactly. I don't even feel sad about it anymore. Parents and children are separate individuals, even if they share the same blood. There's a limit to how many times you can forgive terrible behavior. What follows is something we heard through my husband's contacts. Alex and Mia apparently working non-stop at the factory. They've angered the factory manager by slacking off and doing a sloppy job with assembling parts. It seems they're now paying the price for their previous laziness. Perhaps because of their busy lives, Alex and Mia are constantly fighting, causing complaints from their neighbors in the company housing. Saving money is difficult for them, as their hobbies include playing the lottery and smoking, both money-draining activities. The stress of not being able to save money despite working hard and having no one to rely on must be tough. But I can't bring myself to feel sorry for them. They've never worked a proper job, which is why they could shamelessly ask for money. I hope their factory jobs will lead them to change their ways, even a little. I still get occasional calls and emails from Alex. He writes things like he's sorry for what happened and wants to get along as a family. He seems to have changed a bit, but I still can't trust him. Only when they become self-reliant and considerate can we share a life together. As long as they're preoccupied with themselves, a fresh start will be difficult. Since retiring as CEO, my husband has taken up home gardening, something he's wanted to do since he was young. I assist him with his gardening while continuing my re-entry volunteer work in our new location. I had hoped to live peacefully with our son and daughter-in-law. Ideally, I would have wanted to live peacefully with our son and his wife. That wish may not have come true. But as long as I know they're alive and well somewhere, that's enough for me. The time I spend with my husband is more precious and warm than anything else. I intend to protect this invaluable happiness and lifestyle with all my might.
My husband always looked down on me and was uncooperative in our married life. Every now and then he'd say, "You should be grateful to me, a high earner," and belittle me, a vocational school graduate. One day my husband said, "You should appreciate what you have in me," and he left home. "Are you ready to apologize yet?" That's what he asked when he contacted me, and I told him, "It's more comfortable without you." My name is Annika, and I'm 28 years old. I met my husband, Matthew, who's the same age, through a mutual friend. When I met him, I had just graduated from a vocational school in the countryside and moved to the city for work. Matthew, who was from the city, actively taught me about urban life. "Ask me anything about this place. You must be lost since you just came from the countryside, right?" Well, I'll take you up on that offer. I'm confused about the train transfers, and then, when I asked various questions, Matthew said, "I'll guide you." Matthew, who showed me an unknown world, was very reliable, and I gradually became attracted to him. On his days off, Matthew would take me to popular tourist spots, and we started seeing each other every weekend. Gradually, we began to have dinner after work more often, and it became natural for Matthew and me to be together. So it was only natural that he proposed to me. I had no reason to refuse, and Matthew and I became a married couple before we knew it. However, as our married life continued, Matthew began to look down on me. "You're going to keep working after we get married, right?" I looked into Matthew's eyes and answered his question. "Yeah, I'm planning to. We have to pay the mortgage on our new home." "Really? All right, do as you like, but don't slack off on the housework, okay?" "What? Since we're both working, let's share the housework." "Share? Unlike you, a vocational graduate, I have a responsible job. I don't have time for housework." "But I have work too." "Work? It's probably no different from part-time work, right? Besides, there are plenty of replacements for someone like you who didn't even go to college. I'm expected by the company, so it's not the same. My work is many times more important than yours." "But..." "There's no but. It's only natural for the one who doesn't earn to do the housework." "I think that's wrong, though." "You wouldn't understand since you didn't even go to college. That's common sense." I had my own opinions, but I didn't want to fight so early in our marriage. I gave up on persuading Matthew and decided to do all the housework myself, as he said. I had been living alone for a long time, so I wasn't bad at housework. I had been cooking for myself while working, so it was just for 2 people now. I quietly obeyed Matthew. Perhaps encouraged by this, he gradually became more unreasonable. "From today, I'll manage all the salary. I'll give you living expenses, so manage with that." We had moved our savings to a joint account before marriage, and after marriage, we planned to use our money carefully and gradually increase our savings. But Matthew suddenly said, "I'll manage everything." The living expenses Matthew gave me were only $100. $100? Is this just for food? The other daily necessities are separate, right? "What? That's all the money I'm giving you. You can manage with $100 as a housewife, right?" Food, daily necessities, medical expenses, all of that for just $100 a month? It's impossible. "It's not impossible. You'll do it. I come home tired from work every day. I won't forgive you if you skimp on meals." Moreover, Matthew was picky about the menu, and he'd become grumpy if it wasn't luxurious. "What's this? Just this little bit of meat? Lately it's all cheap meat. I want you to serve me some expensive meat after I've worked all day." But with $100 for living expenses, it's impossible. If you want to eat meat, can you increase the living expenses a bit? "No more whining! I can't give you any more." "Why? If we combine both our salaries, we should still have some left over for rent and utilities, right? I want you to use some of the savings for living expenses." "The balance is decreasing. I can't increase it anymore." "What? We're not saving? Why, when I'm saving so much?" "How should I know? Maybe the $100 for living expenses is still too much." "You haven't been checking the details, have you?" What man would bother looking at that? If the balance is decreasing, you need to check what it's being spent on to manage it properly. What on earth are you spending so much on? You've been coming home late lately. Is it the drinking expenses? The drinking is for business relationships and entertaining. Don't criticize how I do my job. It seems that Matthew was using the money in the account as he pleases, without even checking the details. Upon further investigation, it wasn't just drinking. He was buying things for his hobbies, making excuses like a break from work, and doing whatever he wanted. No wonder the savings were decreasing. Hey, the money in our joint account is what we both contributed when we got married, right? Shouldn't we save a little more? Then Matthew yelled at me. Don't be so noisy when I'm supporting you. You should be grateful to live under a high earner like me. Matthew's salary is $1,500 a month. Is that considered a high salary? But in Matthew's company, he seems to be on the higher end of the pay scale. Because of that, Matthew has completely convinced himself that he's a high earner. Listen, I'm expected at the company, so I'm juggling many jobs. I have many clients, so the number of entertaining events increases. That's why the drinking parties increase. It can't be helped. There are many people in the company who are laid off and quit due to restructuring. Don't you understand my competence being needed by the company all this time? His reasoning is just too selfish. I had kept quiet until now, but I finally couldn't stand it anymore. I'll be clear about this. A salary of $1,500 is not a high salary or anything. Nowadays, everyone gets more for their first salary. For your age, only getting $1,500 is actually too little. But in my company, if you say you're a high earner in the company, isn't it that Matthew's company's salary level itself is low? What did you say? Also, if you're going drinking for entertaining, the company should cover it as an expense. It's strange for you to bear it personally. Well, it's common, isn't it? Is it? And the people around you who quit, were they really laid off due to restructuring? What do you mean? Well, no one explicitly said it's restructuring, but employees are regularly decreasing. Isn't it that everyone's quitting because they hate the company's harsh nature? The salary is low, overtime pay is hardly given, and they don't even let you use expenses for business drinking. That could easily be classified as a so-called black company, don't you think? What did you say? People like Matthew, who work for low wages without questioning anything, are valuable to the company in a way. But aren't you just being used rather than being relied upon? I said too much. I realized it too late. Matthew's face turned bright red and his shoulders were shaking. You, a country bumpkin and a vocational school graduate, wouldn't understand society? $1,500 is a low salary? You're just a sore loser. A sore loser? Yes! I saw your pay stub the other day, and you only made $1,000. What? Where did you see that? Looking at my surprise, Matthew said triumphantly, the deposit statement was left on the desk. Fool, no matter how much you talk back to me, you still earn less than me. If I don't support you, you can't even live on your own. Stunned, I listened as Matthew continued. This is your punishment for defying me. I'll stay at my parents' house for a while. Try living on your own. You'll understand how much you need me. Parents' house? You can't be serious. I'll take both the joint account and my personal account passbooks and cards. You'll manage with just your earnings, won't you? With that, Matthew quickly packed his things and left. After he left, I started living alone. Living by myself, I quickly realized how comfortable it is. There's no one to complain about the menu when I cook. I can make whatever I want to eat. Since Matthew was the one who mostly messed up the room, cleaning is a breeze when I'm alone. Without a husband who drinks and comes home every day, I don't have to spend extra money. Would it be better if he's not here? Just when I started thinking that, Matthew called. Hey, are you alive? I thought you, being so stubborn, wouldn't come crying to me, so I called. Have you realized how much you need me? If you apologize now, I might come back. But you'll have to promise not to defy me anymore. You don't have to come back. At my immediate response, Matthew let out a strange, huh? I realized something after being away from you and being alone. It's better without you. Stop talking nonsense. How do you plan to live on your own? You can't live on $1,000, can you? What you saw wasn't my salary statement, but the amount paid for expenses. My company, unlike Matthew's, doesn't skimp on expenses. Expenses, you say? Yes, my salary is $4,000. What? $4,000? How can you, a vocational school graduate, earn that much? I practiced a lot of practical work at vocational school to become immediately employable, and the company allowed me to obtain many useful certifications. Thanks to those qualifications, I received offers from companies I wanted, and I've been promoted smoothly since I joined the company, thanks to the specialized skills I learned at school. So, I think a $4,000 salary is a fair amount, and it's a natural result. How can you, a vocational school graduate, earn more than me, a university graduate? You always look down on vocational school graduates, but Matthew, your university is just a 4-year institution and practically unknown, right? Person who brags about being from a third-rate university just because it's a 4-year institution probably wouldn't be hired by a decent company. Maybe a company with harsh working conditions like yours would find you easy to handle. After all I've done to support you, how can you say that? You don't understand anything. Your salary alone couldn't possibly maintain this lifestyle. No matter how much we save on living expenses, $1,500 can't cover rent, utilities, your drinking expenses, and shopping for hobbies. If it weren't for my salary, we would have gone bankrupt long ago. You never said a word about this before. You were the one managing the account, right? I assumed you noticed. I'm surprised you had no sense of urgency, even though the balance was steadily decreasing. I didn't have time to look at that all the time. Both our salaries are our money. Yes, that's true. I didn't care who earned more, as long as our savings were growing. I had no resistance to using my salary for our future. But it seems that my salary was not going into savings, but was all spent on your drinking parties and shopping for hobbies. Well, I've had enough of that. I realized I don't need you anymore, so you don't have to come back here. Wait, are you breaking up with me? Well, yes. If my salary is gone, it's you who won't be able to live, right? Then Matthew suddenly became frantic. Wait, don't leave me! What a quick change from his earlier arrogance about supporting me. I threw his words back at him. Well, if you apologize now, I might forgive you, but you'll have to promise not to defy me anymore. I understand. I promise. Really? Yes! I'll even increase the living expenses I give you a little. At his desperate plea, I burst into laughter. Give me living expenses? What are you talking about? From now on, you'll be doing the housework, so I don't need living expenses. I'm doing housework? Yes, you said it yourself. It's natural for the one who earns less to do the housework. Between your $1,500 and my $4,000, you, a university graduate, can easily figure out who earns less, right? From now on, I'll give you living expenses, and you'll do the housework. I'll manage the total money. But housework is a woman's job, right? Oh, are you defying me? Planning to break the promise already? I'm ready to divorce anytime, you know. Wait, I understand. And so he agreed to take on all the housework, just as I said. After that, I continued to make requests to Matthew. Matthew, no more overtime from now on. Wait a minute, I can't finish my work without overtime. There's no need to do unpaid overtime. If you do overtime, make sure the company pays you for it. All right. Also, I won't pay for your entertainment expenses. What? The only money I have to spend freely is the living expenses I get at the beginning of the month. How am I supposed to go out drinking with that? You should be able to get entertainment expenses from the company. Talk to them about that too. If you go out for drinks for other reasons, I'll give you additional social expenses. As I said, Matthew tried to negotiate with his company for overtime pay and entertainment expenses, but he was brushed off. The supervisors who had been flattering him with, "We rely on you," and "You're our star," suddenly turned cold. Matthew finally seemed to realize that his company was not normal. What Annika said was true. They just wanted an employee who would do unpaid overtime and self-funded entertainment without complaining. Matthew, who had given up on his company, then began job hunting. However, he couldn't find a company willing to hire him, a third-rate university graduate with no qualifications or skills. In interviews, he was told, if you only had at least one qualification. Matthew, who had failed miserably in his job search, said to me admiringly, the qualifications you have are actually amazing. I've always looked down on you for being a vocational school graduate, but you are far more incredible than me. I was wrong. I'm sorry for everything. Matthew, who had been uncooperative and unreasonable in our married life, had completely changed. In the end, he started working part-time at a nearby supermarket. I'm not as efficient at housework as you yet, so I chose a place where I can come home early. From now on, I'll support you from behind. Matthew, thank you. But I want you to continue job hunting. We can do housework whenever we can. Let's work together as a couple from now on. But even if I continue job hunting, it's impossible for me to join a company that pays better than you. Don't worry about that. I was originally against Matthew's idea that the one who doesn't earn does the housework. I just wanted you to understand that, so I said the same thing. Matthew, why don't you look for a job you want to do without worrying about money? After that, Matthew started checking job listings and studying for qualifications during his part-time work. If I don't have any skills, I thought I'd at least get some qualifications. Annika, can you help me with what I don't understand? Yes, of course. Although our relationship has become the complete opposite of what it was initially, Matthew and I are getting along much better than when we were newlyweds. I like Matthew now much more than the old him. I want to continue living together as a couple, combining our strength.
I'm so tired. Hey, grab me a beer and some steak.
Mother-in-law, what are you just sitting there for? Go get some beer and snacks. You're really useless.
It was New Year's Eve, and my house was filled with relatives. My eldest son and his wife had just arrived and wasted no time in bossing me around. Still stunned by their rudeness, my daughter-in-law continued with a sour face.
We haven't even gotten a thank you for the Christmas gifts yet.
Huh?
Sierra's study desk and shoulder bag, they were nice, weren't they? Or didn't you like them? The colors were so cute.
I clenched my fist and quietly responded. All right, let me thank you then. Avril, I see you've started wearing men's cologne. Avril sniffed her sleeve with a shocked expression. Mom, Avril doesn't wear cologne. Wait, you're right. I hear all kinds of things from your son, Kyle. All kinds of things. I grinned at my visibly sweating daughter-in-law. My name is Liliana, and I'm 63. I work part-time in a restaurant, and my husband of the same age is still working full-time. Of my adult children, my eldest son, Benedict, and his family live in a high-rise apartment in town, while my younger son, James, and his family share our home. That's because James' daughter has health issues. After their marriage, they rented a condo but moved in with us to be closer to the big hospital where their daughter had been hospitalized several times. Being closer makes it more convenient for medical appointments, and my husband and I can look after our granddaughter if needed. I get along well with James' responsible yet unassuming wife. But no matter how much time passes, I can't get along with my non-live-in daughter-in-law, Avril. Are you guys struggling financially? One day I finally asked her. Avril habitually drops by unannounced and helps herself to our fridge. That day she was stuffing an array of high-end hams, fruits, and vegetables into her bag.
Don't lump us in with James and his wife. We have college and grad school degrees, you know.
So you won't mind leaving some for us?
It's just a little food. We're spending a fortune on Kyle's entrance exams.
In the end, she took canned and ready-to-eat foods too. My husband and James returned from a day out to find the fridge empty and were bewildered, but we couldn't tell Avril to stay away and just put up with it. One day, I came home from work and went to my dresser, only to find my jewelry box empty. James's wife wouldn't just take my jewelry without asking. When I asked Avril, she texted back,
I borrowed them.
But then, no word from her for 6 months. I couldn't take it anymore and called her. Avril, can you return my pearl necklace and diamond earrings? They're heirlooms from my mother. I'd like them back.
Oh, I lost them.
You lost them?
Sorry. I'll return them if I find them.
I was at a loss for words, too drained to even complain as I hung up the phone. I didn't want to blame her too much. It felt like bullying my daughter-in-law, and that made me uncomfortable. I convinced myself I'd given the money to her and let it go. I had been putting up with Averil's antics because I didn't want to make a fuss. But then, something happened that pushed me over the edge. One day, I went to the department store with my second son and his wife. We were shopping for a shoulder bag and a study desk for our granddaughter, who was starting elementary school. The shoulder bag section had everything from simple colors like red, blue, and yellow to more vibrant shades like lavender and pink. My granddaughter picked a simple red bag. Sierra, are you sure about this one?
Yep, it has cute hearts and butterflies on it.
All right, let's go with this. We also picked out a nice sturdy desk with a beautiful wood grain and plenty of storage. Both items would be delivered around Christmas. We left the department store in high spirits. Then Christmas Eve came. Sierra had been invited to a mom's friend's Christmas party and went out with my second son's wife. In the evening, after Sierra's desk and bag had been delivered, my eldest son's family showed up. Here's your Christmas gift, Kyle, the latest gaming console and some games.
Thanks, Grandma. I've wanted this forever.
Kyle's eyes were shining. He probably couldn't afford it himself. Yet Avril had a new designer bag every time I saw her. As they were leaving, Avril opened the door to Sierra's room without asking and peeked inside.
Wow, a red shoulder bag? How outdated.
And the desk looks old-fashioned.
Sierra chose them herself. It's none of your business. I couldn't help but snap back. Avril glared at me.
Defending her again, huh? You think she's so adorable?
Our Kyle is way more accomplished. She's the granddaughter of two people who didn't even go to college.
If you're going to go there, then I have my own thoughts on the matter. Avril smirked and left. I dismissed her as all talk, never thinking she'd actually do something. The next day, I came home from work and was hit by an awful smell as soon as I walked in. The source was Sierra's room at the end of the hall. When I opened the door, I was stunned, then screamed. The brand new study desk had been vandalized with red spray paint. I'm a poor elementary school student. Mom and Dad didn't even go to college, idiots. And her shoulder bag was splattered with brown paint. When I picked up the shoulder bag, my hands were sticky with paint. The hearts and butterflies that Sierra loved were now smeared in brown. Just then, Sierra and my second son's wife came home. They too were speechless at the sight, but Sierra walked past me and picked up her bag.
My bag is ruined.
Tears rolled down her cheeks and my heart ached. I quickly called the department store. After showing the pictures of the desk, I was told it was difficult to fix, so I reordered the same desk and shoulder bag. I was relieved to know they would arrive by the school ceremony and left the department store. When I got home, my husband and our younger son looked furious. Our granddaughter had cried herself to sleep. I had a hunch and asked my husband about it, and I was right. I reached out to our grandson and he kindly agreed to my request. Days later, I shared the results with my husband and our younger son and his wife. They agreed with my opinion. Now, all that was left was to wait for the holiday season when all the relatives would gather. 2 weeks later. On New Year's Eve, my house was bustling with relatives. Our eldest son's family was running late, but our grandson had arrived earlier to have dinner and play video games with our granddaughter. When the date finally changed, our eldest son and his wife arrived. Barely greeting anyone, they joined the party. They looked displeased when they saw only salad and some roast beef left on the table.
What the heck? There's barely anything left, man. I'm tired. Hey, give me beer and a steak.
Mother-in-law, why have you been zoning out? Go get us some beer and snacks, either from a supermarket or a grocery store. You're really useless.
Although furious, I held my tongue considering the gathering of relatives, and then they complained more.
I haven't even heard a thank you for the Christmas gifts.
Gifts?
The desk and shoulder bag for Sierra? I made them cute for her.
Avril smirked.
I thought they looked poor, so I modernized them. Oh, you didn't like them? They looked like they were soaked in mud. They would perfectly symbolize her grim future.
Our niece's parents are dim-witted, so she'll never go to college. Poor, uneducated, and sickly. Her life's already a mess at 6.
Hilarious, she's living the dream.
You!
My younger son was about to lash out, but I held him back with a glance. I understand. Let me thank you properly. With clenched fist, I headed to the kitchen. I returned to the room with steak and a can of beer that I had prepared in case the table emptied. I slammed the raw steak in front of my eldest son and his wife and stabbed it with a knife and fork. Here, steak. Then I popped open a can of beer and poured it over Avril's head. Here's the beer you were waiting for.
Mom, have you gone mad?
What are you doing? Ah, my eyes!
My eldest son rushed for a towel. No one intervened. Everyone was just stunned. After wiping her face and hair with the towel, Avril, her makeup ruined, yelled at me.
Mother-in-law, do you find it amusing to torment your daughter-in-law?
What are you talking about? But Avril, I've noticed you've started wearing men's cologne. I can smell it from the dress you're wearing. Avril sniffed her sleeves, looking startled. It's the same cologne my father used to wear, I remember it. My eldest son frowned, puzzled. Mom, Avril doesn't wear perfume. Oh, you're right. Avril pushes past her husband, stuttering as she tries to explain.
It's someone else's scent, okay?
Even though you came in the car, I shoot Avril a sharp look. I've heard quite a few things from Kyle, you know. Quite a few things. It's winter, but Avril is sweating. Her husband presses her. So you were at your high school reunion overnight, right?
Why wouldn't you believe your own wife over your mother?
The room goes silent except for the voices of the arguing couple. The relatives who were chattering moments ago have gone quiet, now keenly observing the marital dispute. Just then, my grandson walks in. He nods at me and speaks to Avril.
Mom, you're close with your private tutor, aren't you? Do they teach at your alma mater?
Yes, they do. To get into a prestigious middle school, you need connections, even with teachers.
Is that so?
Their son slyly takes out his phone and presses the playback button before setting it next to the raw meat. Avril's voice soon fills the room.
Oh, stop. Not now. Kai will be back soon.
We're fine, don't worry.
I'm looking forward to spending New Year's Eve at a hotel with a beautiful view.
I've cleared my schedule for that day. Thank you for always being generous.
Don't mention it. I make good money as an elite postgrad.
The room starts buzzing again, and her husband's face turns beet red. I just remembered an urgent matter. As Avril tries to sneak away, her husband grabs her arm. You're cheating on me with that college student?
So what if I am? I'm young and successful. Men are naturally attracted to me.
Avril becomes defiant.
I could have earned more than you if it weren't for Kyle. You think you're so great just because you earn a bit more with just a bachelor's degree?
She seems to realize she's misspoken.
Kyle did nothing wrong.
She tries to hug her son from behind to cover his slip, but he shakes her off.
I wasn't planning on divorcing you.
We still have entrance exams to think about. At the mention of entrance exams, her husband's expression changes. Single-parent families are at a disadvantage in exams. I'll let it go this time. He returns to the seat next to Avril with a cough. But Avril isn't done. She turns to my younger son's family.
Even if my salary's decreased since giving birth, it's still way above what bottom feeders make.
She gazes smugly at my younger son's family, who are politely enjoying the roast beef. That's right, comparing us super elites to you barely middle-income folks is just sad.
We live in a penthouse. We're at a different level. Honestly, I'm not too keen on letting our kids hang out.
I couldn't help but laugh at Avril's pompous statement.
What's so funny, mother-in-law? That's rude.
I'm sorry, but when people with zero class say something, it's laughable, don't you think? No matter if you're a high school grad or a dropout, there are many out there who are far more decent than you. I looked at my eldest son, sighed, and touched my cheek. Don't you feel embarrassed doing this in front of Sierra and Kyle?
Would you just stop?
Avril stood up, pointing at the younger son and his wife.
Benek and I work at prestigious companies, not some rundown factories like you people. Kyle will surely get into an elite middle school. We are the chosen ones.
And yet you both got fired from those prestigious companies. The room went tense.
How do you know that?
Avril mumbled. Can you believe he got fired after all that bragging? His younger brother, who works so hard as a loving wife, is way more respectable. And to think he acted so high and mighty with that innocent face. Avril looked down at me, stunned, and asked in a raspy voice,
How did you know, mom-in-law?
Didn't you know? My sister is the CEO where you worked. She told me you both were let go for bullying your colleagues. Gasps filled the room. The eldest son and his wife, the momentum they had until just now disappeared. Now they are crouching, hiding their pitiful faces. What about the lawsuit from your subordinate for causing depression? They recorded your verbal abuse. Avril glared at me, grinding her teeth. We'll get the best lawyers. And we still have Kyle. She moved to her son and laughed triumphantly. My son was already chosen for a scholarship. A bright future is guaranteed if you have capable parents. Right, Kyle? What are you talking about, Mom? Kyle spoke, clearly annoyed. The scholarship was my doing, while you were too busy with your private tutor. Let me choose my own path. Avril went silent, a sour look on her face. I'm leaving this family, Kyle announced. What? I talked to Grandpa in Detroit. I'm moving there. Don't you dare make decisions on your own. Ignoring his father's shout, Kyle pulled out his phone. I can't live with these kind of people. I'll go crazy. He showed a video to the relatives gathering around. In the video, my eldest son spray painted on his niece's study desk, yelling,
Woohoo! I'm going to repaint my niece's poor shoulder bag into something stylish. It's like muddy water, so it's fun.
Avril was also there, splashing brown paint on a shoulder bag. This is just insane. The relatives frowned and shook their heads. Even with their education, they're awful people. Being highly educated doesn't make you a decent person. At those accurate words, the eldest son and his wife fell silent and looked down. My grandson continued his rant. So you got fired, and now you're planning to make Grandpa pay for my tuition? You think it's his duty to support his grandchild? You worry about losing your financial support if I move out, right? Yeah, no more fun money. We won't even be able to buy clothes if unemployment runs out. Before worrying about that, think about the legal fees. When I offered this scathing advice, Avril paled significantly. We need money even to settle out of court. Benedict, what are we going to do? The eldest son, who had turned as white as a sheet, clung to me. Mom, lend me some money. We're family, aren't we? You are Benedict's mother, aren't you? After everything you've done, you've got the nerve to ask. You've got some nerve. Ignoring his parents who were being berated by the relatives, the grandson went back to his video games. Eventually, the party ended and one by one the relatives left. The eldest son and his wife, who had been abandoned by their son, snapped back to reality when only the second son and his family remained. They lashed out at me. You're destroying our family. That's really low. How could you use your grandson to set up your son like this? Are you even a mother? If you have something to say it now. This is your last chance. What? From now on, don't step foot in our house. My husband took over from there. We want to cut ties too, but since we can't disown you, we've made a notarized document. You're cut out of the inheritance. This seemed to finally shock them. My eldest son held his head in his hands and groaned. Avril's eyes filled with tears as she began to tremble. And for good reason. Our estate is significant, including a considerable amount of land and rental income from condos and apartments. I'll say it again. Benedict gets nothing from the inheritance. You'll have to figure out a living expense and legal fees for yourself. Don't bother us anymore. You're a nuisance. With these cold words, the eldest son and his wife were devastated. They had been living comfortably in a high-rise apartment downtown until the layoffs came. They couldn't afford the management fees and moved to a cheaper apartment. However, our relatives who lived in the same town spread rumors about them, so every time they went out, they got badmouthed and had to sneak around even to go shopping. Although the case he was sued by his subordinate was settled by paying a settlement, he has used up all his savings and spends his days looking for jobs to make ends meet. Both the eldest son and Avril were picky about jobs because they felt they deserved better, but they often clashed with coworkers and customers because of their arrogant attitudes. They got fired repeatedly. Avril apparently got dumped by her private tutor, applying the principle, out of sight, out of mind. The eldest son considered divorcing, but they're living together to save on rent and living expenses. Thanks to Avril's affair, she can't stand up to her husband and is subdued. Now that Avril's unannounced visits and verbal abuses towards my second son's family have stopped, we're enjoying our peaceful daily lives. Sierra's smiles have become more frequent, and perhaps thanks to her newfound emotional stability, her health has also started to improve. We're hopeful that her symptoms will continue to get better, and eventually she won't need to visit the doctor anymore. Our grandson comes over from time to time, engaging in lively games and chit-chats about school with his sister. The sparkle in his eyes tells us he's enjoying his freedom away from his parents, thriving at his maternal grandfather's home. Moving forward, husband and I plan to continue supporting our second son's family and look forward to many happy days ahead.
This isn't a place for a bottom-of-the-barrel person like you. Get lost. The moment these words, the finale of flurry of verbal abuse, were hurled at me by our new recruit, Rachel, something inside of me snapped. Still smiling, I gestured with my hand. Look over here. My name is Sherry. I'm 65 years old. I had initially worked for this company, took a break due to marriage and raising children, and have since returned to a part-time administrative role. I have a deep personal attachment to this company. After all, I've been working here since graduating middle school. Back in the day, it was a small-scale company with just a few dozen people. Reflecting back, when my father passed away suddenly, I gave up on going to high school and started working to support my mother and young siblings. I thought to myself, my life is so miserable. Now I realize I was wrong. Life is full of surprises. I believe that it's because of the hardships I've faced that I can enjoy my fulfilling daily life now. And that's how I had come to think. Oh, this document. As I was doing my usual work, my eyes fell on my document tray. The document on top was oddly colorful, decorated with mysterious illustrations. Apart from the necessary charts and graphs, there were various other problems, but in any case, it was formatted differently than the company's set standard. When I asked around about who had left it there, it turned out it was a new employee, Rachel, who had left it during my absence. Holding the problematic document, I headed towards Rachel's desk. Rachel? Hi there. Can I talk to you for a moment? When I called out to her, Rachel turned her eyes towards me without responding. Her haughty attitude was perplexing, but I handed her the document. This document, did you perhaps leave it on my desk by mistake? I think it should have been submitted to your boss. Also, the format seems to be off. You might want to correct it. As I was speaking, Rachel silently stood up and beckoned me to a corner. Although I was puzzled, I followed her, only for Rachel to glare at me.
Of course I submitted it to my boss, but I was told to redo it, which is super annoying. So I delegated the task to you. Can't you see this?
Rachel pointed to a post-it note stuck to the document. It said,
"Redo it for me."
I had noticed the post-it note long ago, but I didn't understand the memo.
I'm highly educated and capable, so even if I don't say anything, work comes my way and I get busy. Do you get it? That's why I decided to share some work with a part-time grandma who seems to have time.
I did my best to suppress a cringe that threatened to twist my face. If I remember correctly, new recruits at this time of the year are still under their training period. Even if they're promising, would they really be assigned that much work as newcomers? Besides, what does she mean by sharing? Apart from the document, this person, Rachel, seems to have many points to question. This is your work, Rachel. I can't do it for you. As I handed the document back to her with a smile, Rachel's face turned red.
Why not? It's just a little correction.
Correcting it is also part of your job and learning process. Even after I explained this, Rachel didn't seem convinced.
Don't be so cheeky for a part-timer, do it.
At first, Rachel spoke in a low voice, but her volume gradually increased, causing a stir around us. What are you doing? Eventually, the employee in charge of her training came over and reprimanded her, ending the matter there. Or so I thought. It turned out that I was the only one who thought so, as I seemed to have earned Rachel's resentment over the document issue. From then on, I was harassed by Rachel almost every day.
It's unthinkable for someone as highly educated as me to be doing such menial work.
She would push work onto me with bizarre confidence and pride, or make snide comments about my age and part-time status, like,
"It's a blessing for a 65-year-old to be a part-timer in a big company like ours. It's hilarious how kind our company is to hire such an incapable old lady."
Rachel has been so terrible. When I discreetly asked around, it seems that Rachel is a problematic new recruit who stands out among those who joined this year. There are rumors about her poor ability to catch up on work and her difficult personality. How did someone like Rachel get hired in the first place? Rachel always flaunted her high education as if it were a mantra. I guess they equated educational background with competency. Our company assigns new employees to their departments based on their work ethic during the training phase. Most of the new hires work on my floor, so I naturally end up dealing with Rachel a lot during this period. The assessment phase lasts a month, so I only have to endure this for another 2 weeks. Oh, but what if she gets assigned to the same department as me? The dreadful thought made me inadvertently clutch my head. Despite her supervisor and other colleagues cautioning her, Rachel kept instigating confrontations with me. If we ended up in the same department, I would definitely be living in hell. She probably sees me as an easy target since she perceives me as a timid old lady. Unaware of my troubles, Rachel approached me again today.
Hey, what was that about just now?
She called out to me as I stepped out of the employee cafeteria. Huh? What? As I stared blankly at her, she dragged me away to a less crowded spot. Rachel turned to face me and blurted out.
You were talking to Ethan, weren't you?
I had indeed been chatting with a young male employee named Ethan in the cafeteria just now. I sighed inwardly. When someone complains to the mention of a person of the opposite sex, it's usually for a predictable reason. What's the matter with that?
Don't you dare make eyes at Ethan, you old hag. The way you touch him is disgusting.
Indeed, while chatting casually, I had lightly patted his back, telling him to pull himself together. I was surprised she had noticed such a minute detail, but I was even more taken aback by her saying, "Are you serious about me hitting on him?" I couldn't help but chuckle. After all, I'm already 65, which Rachel likes to point out herself.
What are you laughing at? Are you making fun of me? Ethan, you know, is the heir to this company, not someone a hag like you can casually talk to.
I must have inadvertently revealed my inner disbelief. Ethan is indeed popular among the female employees because of his good looks and personality. Our company has banned the custom of giving candy on Valentine's now, but I remember him taking home quite a lot of them in the past. Rachel is likely one of the many who admire, or maybe even have a crush on him. But it's absurd for her to be jealous of someone like me. Hey, enough already. A few of the younger employees who had noticed Rachel's loud voice gathered around us trying to intervene.
Mind your own business,
she retorted, refusing to listen. To prevent them from incurring her wrath as I had, I smiled at the people around us and reassured them. I'm okay. Rachel spat out a final insult.
A poor middle school graduate like you should just work quietly until you die. You're an eyesore.
And then she quickly walked away. She really is the troublemaker everyone says she is. Sherry, are you okay? The employees who had tried to stop Rachel expressed their concern for me. Yes, thank you. After that incident, it seemed someone reported Rachel to her boss, and she was reprimanded. Since then, while she'd occasionally glare at me with great intensity, her confrontations with me considerably decreased, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Days passed, and Rachel was assigned to the HR department. Why did she get assigned to HR? I wondered as peace returned to my work. Each department is important in its own right, but given Rachel's track record and personality, I simply couldn't picture her in HR. I know she had to turn in a copy of her university diploma, so I'm certain her educational background isn't a lie, but even with that thought, she couldn't even run a photocopy machine and still worked on documents in her own style, despite being corrected several times already. More importantly, her attitude towards her colleagues is awful. This was something I knew better than anyone else. I wondered how she could get by like this. Despite enduring numerous verbal abuses and harassments, I couldn't help but worry. While I was worried, I also didn't want to get involved with her anymore. I stretched out, savoring the peace that had returned. 2 months later, I was in the changing room, switching from my regular work clothes to a suit, catching my breath. Dressing differently made me feel more focused. I quickly checked my appearance in the mirror and murmured to myself, "Today there's going to be a lecture-based training session at the company, and I was one of the attendees." When I arrived at the venue, some employees were still preparing the projector and arranging the desks. I should help out since I'm already here, I thought in my mind as I approached a person on the stage. As the person turned to my voice, they expressed surprise.
Wait, Sherry? What are you doing here?
I I deeply regretted my mistake in choosing who to approach. Of all people, it was Rachel, the troublemaker. She put her hands on her hips, looked down at me from the stage, and snorted. "There's a training session here today. What does an old part-timer like you need?" As always, she was unpleasant. I kept my smile and responded, "Yes, I'm here to attend the session too." Rachel snorted. "Hold on, today's the final day of training for us new hires. Why would a part-timer like you attend? Oh, I see. You're an old lady who needs to refresh her memory from time to time, so things don't slip your mind." Putting aside her sarcasm, Rachel was right. Today was indeed the final day of training for the new hires. Our company's training for new employees lasts exactly 3 months. The first month is an assessment period, and the remaining 2 are for their boss to observe their work performance. Today was the final day. A sort of summary day where several employees serving as lecturers would provide lectures on topics such as the company's management philosophy. "You're not here as a lecturer, are you? Or has dementia made you confused? This place isn't for bottom-rung workers. Go home already." As I maintained my silence and smile, Rachel's verbal onslaught escalated. The younger employees around us were so stunned that they forgot to stop her. While she was still berating me, I noticed a familiar face among those entering the room. Keeping my smile intact, I gestured with my palm toward the entrance. "You might be the one who'll be leaving after this." "What are you—" Rachel followed my palm and immediately gasped. Standing there were our company's president, the head of the HR department to which Rachel belonged, and Ethan, the man she fancied. The head of HR was sweating profusely at Rachel's outburst, while the president and Ethan were clearly disgusted. "No, this isn't what— I was just trying to explain to this part-timer the importance of today's training." Rachel, finally realizing the gravity of the situation, began to stammer out excuses. No one was coming to her aid. Amid the uncomfortable silence, Ethan, standing next to the president, glared at Rachel and asked me, "Mom, is she the problematic new hire you were always talking about?" When I answered, "Yes," Rachel let out a shriek as if her throat had been constricted.
"So you're Ethan's mom? Then are you the president's wife?"
Back when I was young and working for this company, I was introduced to the former president's son and ended up marrying him. My husband is now the president of this company. Not only Rachel, but also the other younger employees were displaying expressions of surprise.
"Why didn't anyone tell me?"
At Rachel's distressed outburst, I explained, "Only a few employees know I'm the president's wife. I didn't want the new employees' attitudes to be affected, so I asked them to keep quiet about it." Rachel just gaped in response to my words. I was asked by my husband to greet the new employees and offer them words of encouragement, both as a long-serving part-time employee and as the president's wife. That's why I intended to attend today. I didn't expect to be talked down to this much. Rachel bit her lip.
"Why would the president's wife work as a part-timer?"
I might not know much about running a business, but I love this company and I enjoy working among people. Also, working part-time is easier, since I still have household chores at my age. I continued, "There are things that are harder to see from higher positions that are instead clearer to a part-timer. For instance, we often hear various rumors, don't we?" I glanced between the head of HR and Rachel while making my ambiguous remark. Rachel's face instantly turned red. I hadn't planned on spelling it out in this setting, but in her heightened state of emotion, Rachel pointed at the HR manager and shouted out an accusation.
It was him. He told me that if I went out with him, he would arrange for me to be hired."
I was taken aback, not expecting her to self-destruct in this way. Everyone, including my husband and son, was astir. Working part-time, I heard all sorts of rumors, including the rumor about our head of HR and Rachel being in a relationship even before she started working here. It was supposedly why she was hired and assigned to HR in the first place. The source was one of Rachel's fellow new hires, who also told me about it. Apparently, a drunken Rachel had boastfully revealed it all at a social gathering. Later, when I was complaining about Rachel to my husband, I also discussed this rumor with him. I intended to verify it at some point, but I didn't expect this sudden turn of events. All eyes were on the head of HR. His sweat-drenched face was so pale and trembled, so much that he looked as if he were crying. Criticism began to fly around the room. The head of HR was a married man, so it was only natural. Given these circumstances, we have no choice but to halt the training for now, my husband declared, and the training was put on pause. Dragging along Rachel, who was wailing, and the HR manager in a daze, we relocated to the president's office. We had initially heard rumors about you two from my wife, Rachel, right? Your disrespectful behavior towards my wife was unacceptable, and we have received numerous complaints from other employees as well. Honestly, we were trying to figure out how to deal with this. By the way, sir, is it true what Rachel just said? Yes. With my husband's question, the HR manager, knowing he could not escape, weakly nodded. Rachel had difficulty in landing a job despite her education because her character was seen through. Seems as though this whole thing started after the HR manager approached her following her interview. Rachel, on the other hand, was defiant and was shouting at me.
This coward, he manipulated me into it.
She seemed to be referring to when she exposed her relationship with the HR manager, and from her demeanor, she didn't seem remorseful at all. Your way of joining the company is far more cowardly. Ethan defended me with those words, and Rachel sat down, breaking into tears. I approached Rachel and said, Rachel, you were allowed to join the company in exchange for engaging in an inappropriate relationship with a married HR manager. That alone is considerably wrong as a person. Be ashamed of yourself. Correct your actions. Otherwise, I believe you'll lead a life filled with more regrets than now. I spoke to her as if admonishing, but Rachel just looked down, silent like a sulking child. Mom, I don't think it's worth saying anything to her. She's really done as a person. Upon hearing Ethan's sighing voice, Rachel's voice subtly shivered. Oh right, she had a one-sided crush on my son. These brief words may have hit her harder than anything I said. Now that we know it's a fact, we'll decide on your consequences later. Rachel, you can go home for today, and as for you, you stay and get back to work. With my husband's words, the HR manager and Rachel, both staggering, left the president's office. After watching their retreating figures, I never saw Rachel again. After a while, she resigned from the company. The HR manager was demoted and transferred to a different department, and was served with divorce papers by his wife. He's clinging to his job while being looked down upon by others, all to pay alimony and child support. According to Rachel's parents, who came to apologize later, understandably, Rachel was also sued for a large amount of alimony by the former HR manager's wife. Rachel turned to her parents for help but was rejected, and now she's apparently working part-time at a gas station in her neighborhood. As for me, I have plans to dine out with my family after work tonight. Ethan wants to introduce us to his girlfriend. I wonder what kind of person she is. I grinned and went back to work, looking forward to tonight's dinner.
Starting today, we're looking after her. You can't have kids, so you must be thrilled, right?
3 years into our marriage, my husband suddenly brought home his niece. To make matters worse, she was a result of his sister's affair. Deciding on his own to raise her at our home? That's the height of irresponsibility. I won't just go along with this. They won't get their way with me. My name is Priscilla. I'm 30, living the typical life of a dual-income couple with my husband Randolph. We don't have any kids, not because of health issues, but financial reasons. We dream of buying our own home and must be careful with our financial planning. We have decided to wait until we have saved enough for a down payment and birth costs. Since Randolph usually gets home late, I always prepare dinner while waiting for him.
I'm home, Priscilla. What a day.
Welcome back. Dinner's almost ready. Go wash your hands.
What's cooking? It smells amazing.
It's your favorite meat sauce pasta.
Really? I'll wash my hands right now. By the way, any chance for seconds?
Of course, there's plenty.
Awesome. I'll have 3 plates then.
He always enjoys the dishes I make. The seasoning differs from what he's used to, but seeing him relish every bite makes me not care anymore. Our relationship with the in-laws is balanced, not too close, not too distant. But there's one shadow over our life, Randall's sister, Garnet. 5 years younger than us, Garnet is a real piece of work. She looks sweet, but in reality, she's a flirt and not the nicest person. She's one of the worst people I have ever met. Lately, every time we meet, she belittles me. You probably weren't popular in school, were you? Despite her rude question, I try to answer lightheartedly. Well, I was more into basketball in school, never really interested in dating.
That's what unpopular people always say. Were you one of them?
It's not an excuse, I just wasn't interested in romance.
Yeah, I get it. Clearly, you're not the popular type.
Garnet, that's quite rude.
But it's true, right? Got under your skin?
Enough of that, let's drop it.
You know, when I walk around town, I get scouted as a model. It's so hard to shop peacefully. Maybe I should take you as a bodyguard?
Garnet always makes me her verbal punching bag. What's worse is that she acts without any remorse. The most stressful part is that my husband's family spoils her rotten. Both sets of parents and even my husband dote on her, letting her say whatever she pleases without any reprimand. Apparently, her beauty has always made her the family's darling. Her skin is as white as porcelain, her hair a fluffy platinum blonde, and her body delicately petite, like a doll. As a result, she's always fawned over by everyone around her and has morphed into a rather arrogant monster. Just the other day, something happened when we visited my in-laws. My sister-in-law noticed a bag I have been using for years and laughed at it, pointing her finger.
Wait, what's with your bag, sis?
What? Is there something wrong with my bag?
Isn't it a bit too worn out? How many years have you been using it?
Well, it's been about 3 years, but I don't think it's all that worn out.
The handle's color is fading a bit, isn't it? I would be too embarrassed to use it.
I like this bag. I don't mind if it's a little worn out. I just keep using it because it's important to me. Upon hearing this, my sister-in-law burst out laughing, a smirk of contempt on her face.
Sis, you must have become stingy because you don't get hit on, right?
What? What does that have to do with not getting hit on? At my irritation, she looked up at me, pouting her lips.
It does matter. If I want something, guys immediately buy it for me. But you don't have that, do you?
Why would I wouldn't ask strangers to buy me personal items.
I can do that because I'm popular. If I ask, everyone will buy me anything. It's tough being so popular, but it's a blessing.
At this, even I was at a loss for words. Then one day, I received an email from Garnet saying she wanted to talk about something, and she visited our condo, and then she uttered something utterly shocking.
Hey sis, guess what? I'm dating a married man right now.
What? A married man?
He even has kids.
Whoa, wait a minute. What are you saying? Isn't that pretty bad?
Don't be so straightforward, sis. Everyone's cheating. It's not a big deal.
That's not okay, and he even has a wife and kids.
Stop nagging. I didn't come here to be lectured. I came here to brag about being hit on by a married man.
What on earth is she saying? She said she had a problem and asked me to make time for her. What is this all about? She's not in trouble. She's bragging? I can't believe it. Garnet, cheating is not okay. You should end that relationship as soon as possible.
Oh, well, I guess you wouldn't understand because you're not popular. What a waste of time.
With that, she quickly left. Since then, I couldn't stand her and tried to avoid her as much as possible. It was 6 months later when my sister-in-law got pregnant with a child from the married man. I couldn't believe what my husband told me and had to ask him to repeat it several times. Huh? Garnet is pregnant with a child from the man she cheated with? You're kidding, right?
Yeah, and her belly is already pretty big, so it seems she has no choice but to give birth.
But how will she raise it? And won't the man's wife demand compensation?
She is already being demanded, but she says she's definitely going to have the baby.
What? She didn't just cheat with a married man, she got pregnant too? My disgust for my sister-in-law was beyond control. My contempt deepened, and I found myself unable to... Despite everything that's been going on, you feel sympathy? I can't believe it. One day, out of frustration, I confronted my husband. Listen, Randolph, this is really getting out of hand.
Oh, what's out of hand?
Garnet, it's already bad enough she had an affair as a married woman, but why on earth aren't you scolding her for getting pregnant too?
Scolding? Look, Garnet is struggling, isn't she? This is her first pregnancy and emotionally...
My voice naturally rose against my husband's careless droning. Struggling? That's not the point. Think about the other woman. She has a kid, and her husband cheated on her, and the woman he cheated with is pregnant now. Garnet should certainly be remorseful, don't you think?
Why are you so angry? Don't you feel sorry for Garnet at all, Priscilla?
Sorry? Sorry for what? The one at fault is Garnet, who had the affair, isn't it?
That's enough. I didn't realize you would be so cold, Priscilla.
What? Why am I the one being blamed here? The ones with messed up morals are my husband and his family, right? I continued to argue with my husband, but he wouldn't listen. I kept my distance from my sister-in-law and lived independently until... My husband suddenly said something outrageous.
I've been thinking, we should take in Garnet's baby.
What? What are you talking about? How could you even think like that?
Well, Garnet said, you can take care of it if you want. We don't have kids of our own, so...
That's not the point. Stop being so impulsive. Why have we been living a planned life till now? To my desperate pleas, my husband said something even more preposterous.
After all, Garnet will be the one giving birth, so it won't put any burden on you, Priscilla. Plus, if Garnet were to get married to someone else, the child would be a nuisance, wouldn't it?
What?
Anyways, this decision is final. Start preparing to welcome a child, alright?
The cruelty of my husband's casual words filled me with fear. He's serious? We are supposed to take care of a child conceived through my sister-in-law's affair? It's fine just because we don't have kids? That's absurd. My distrust and disgust towards my husband only grew day by day. Living together was starting to feel unbearable. My in-laws, who did nothing to scold my sister-in-law, said this to me.
Well, Garnet is young and attractive. She could get married to another man in the future. Considering that, it's best for you and Randolph to raise Garnet's child.
Yeah, Garnet's child would surely be adorable, whoever raises it. It's still our grandchild after all.
I panicked and put a stop to my in-laws' excited rambling. Wait. Are you serious? I don't plan to...
Well, aren't you infertile, Priscilla? Is there any problem?
You've been married for quite a while now and haven't gotten pregnant. It's lucky that Garnet could have a baby for you. Or are you just jealous that Garnet is pregnant?
Jealous? For the record, I'm not infertile. We have planned to start trying for a baby after considering things like buying a house. Even my husband, who should have been on my side, joined in the ridicule.
Hey, Priscilla, jealousy isn't a good look.
I am not jealous.
So you're just upset your little sister beat you to it, huh?
What? The family's ethics are beyond my comprehension. A few weeks later, my sister-in-law gives birth to the married man's child and my husband comes home holding the newborn. With a wide smile, he tells me,
"We're going to take care of this baby from now on."
You're kidding, right? Despite everything I said, you actually brought the baby home?
Come on, aren't you happy, Priscilla? You can't have kids after all.
Stop it. I told you I am not infertile. We agreed to wait until we have saved enough money.
But didn't I also tell you that jealousy isn't a good look? Stop envying Garnet. Can't be helped, right? Unlike you, Garnet is cute and attractive.
In that moment, my anger reached its peak. I can't be in a marriage with this man anymore. I tell my husband calmly, if you want to take care of that child so badly, then do it on your own.
On my own?
He quickly raises an eyebrow.
Who do you think you are? I took in the child for you too.
For me? Stop joking. I refused countless times. Despite that, you brought the child home anyway. How is that for me?
Enough. If you are going to refuse this child so much, we're getting a divorce.
Perfect, because that's what I want too. I can't be married to someone like you anymore. I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared in advance and he signs them looking like a demon.
There, I signed it. Are you happy now?
Thank you. I'll file these then. As I gather my belongings to leave, he throws the divorce papers at me.
You're so stubborn and not cute at all. Have fun living a lonely life. Living a lonely life? I wonder who's really going to end up like that. Barely suppressing a grin, I leave the house I had lived in for so many years. After our divorce, my ex-husband apparently moved out of our condominium to live with his parents. His parents were overjoyed to be able to live off their son's income and quickly quit their jobs. He must have been very happy to be relied upon by his parents, as he was determined to work hard for his parents and daughter. One day, I unexpectedly run into my friend Shirley while walking in the city. She works at the same company as my ex-husband, so she already knows about our divorce. I was quite shocked by the truth she told me. Wait, he's saying I cheated? Yeah, he's been saying at work that he found out you were cheating while you were pregnant, that the baby might not even be his. Everyone's been feeling really sorry for him. Why did you tell me, Priscilla? Hold on a second. I didn't cheat and I didn't even have a baby. Wait, what do you mean? I explained everything to Shirley. Upon hearing this, Shirley became furious, turned bright red, and promised to tell everyone the truth at work. My ex-husband, cornered by Shirley, frantically tried to make excuses. Randolph, how dare you spread lies about Priscilla cheating? What? I never lied. Your daughter? She's not Priscilla's daughter, is she? She's your sister's child. Your sister is the one who cheated, and you decided to take the child all by yourself. Priscilla was so disgusted she left you. That's the truth, isn't it? No. Priscilla was the one who cheated. My sister had nothing to do with it. Oh, really? Well, shall we call Priscilla now? It will be easy to confirm if she gave birth. Oh, well. Shirley quickly exposed my ex-husband's lies. He faced heavy criticism from everyone at the company. Ultimately, he was summoned by his boss, leading him to lose his place in the company and resign. With no income, his parents quickly turned cold, and it seemed like he was on the verge of being kicked out of their home. In a sudden change of heart, he reached out to me. Priscilla, I was wrong. Please help me. When I answered the phone, my feelings were icy cold. Help you? What are you talking about now? I'll leave Gardner's child at home, so please, let's try again. I was utterly fed up with him. Still spouting convenient things in this situation? As if to vent all the resentment I had been holding, I poured out my feelings onto him. Enough. Who are you to say help me or let's try again? It's too late to be so shameless. Who do you think ended our marriage? It was all your own selfish decisions. I'm sorry. I'll apologize, so please forgive me. Why would I forgive you, you idiot? A senseless man like you? I reject you. Not having a child was the best decision. Thank you for allowing me to divorce you without any regrets. Calm down, hey! I will never forgive you. I have no intention of having anything to do with you again. Whatever happens to you, I don't care. Just fall, you fool. After letting out everything I wanted to say, I hung up the phone. In that moment, I blocked his number. According to rumors, my ex-husband begged his parents and they let him stay in their house under the condition he covers his own living expenses. However, he was unable to secure another job and in desperation resorted to borrowing money from an illegal lender with exorbitant interest rates. Now his whole family lives in fear of debt collectors. My former sister-in-law also faced troubles as the wife of the man she cheated with demanded a large sum of money as compensation. Her friends discovered her affair and she quickly lost their respect. Having had an affair with a married man and dumped the child on her real brother, she's now struggling without any men around her. Meanwhile, I rented a condominium near my workplace and have been enjoying my single life. I used to think that I couldn't imagine a life without a husband, but now I genuinely believe that it was a good thing to divorce. If I ever get involved with someone again, I want to avoid making the same mistakes. To grab my own happiness, I am determined to discern people properly.